The street is alive with cars weaving through traffic and people striding along the sidewalks, all too busy to notice when the traffic light starts to malfunction. It sparks and flashes red, but everyone continues on, oblivious. Meanwhile, our guy stands frozen, staring at his feet, then his hands, which are clad in thick, black, fingerless gloves. He lifts them up, inspecting them like he's never seen gloves before. Then he looks around, blue eyes wide, taking in the city with a look that says, "Where am I?" He turns and catches his reflection in the side of a passing bus. A young, ridiculously handsome guy stares back at him, and he looks deep into those striking features with awe and confusion. It slowly dawns on him that he doesn't even know who he is, not even his name. As he's busy having a full-blown existential crisis right there on the sidewalk, people continue to breeze by him, paying no attention. They've clearly got their own problems. He glances down at his clothes, his gaze landing on a shoulder badge, a skull, and 2 knives. On the other shoulder, a world map, wings, and a small star. Military uniform? He tilts his head, trying to piece it all together. All right, skulls and knives on a badge. I'm probably not a kindergarten teacher. With a sigh, he looks around, still hopelessly clueless. He doesn't know where he is, what he's supposed to be doing, or even what to call himself. The protagonist finds himself in an unfamiliar place, squinting up at the wide blue sky, straining his brain for any memory, any detail that could help him. He feels completely stranded and more than a little lost. Suddenly, a loud alarm blares, snapping him out of his daze. He spins around, fists instantly balled and ready to throw down. In his confusion, he throws a mighty punch directly at the nearest tree. The impact is nothing short of an anime-level explosion, and the tree topples with a loud crack. Birds scatter, squawking and flapping in terror, while the protagonist stands there, eyes wide, staring at his smoking fist. He hadn't meant to deck a tree. He was just following instinct. For a moment, passers-by freeze, eyes bulging as they take in the scene. No one knows what to make of this guy, who's just turned a tree into kindling in the middle of the city. The protagonist, meanwhile, is totally stunned, staring at his hand in awe. Did I just do that? His jaw drops. Suddenly, he hears a voice in his head. It's calm, polite, and frankly sounds like it's had a bit too much coffee. "Hello, agent," it says. "Nice to meet you." The protagonist whips his head around, expecting to see someone sneaking up on him, but there's no one. The voice continues, totally unfazed. "I am your body-integrated combat support AI." "Body-integrated combat wa?" he mutters, still looking around. But then it hits him. Body-integrated means it's in me? Taking this in stride, he immediately asks, "Okay, so where am I? And what year is it?" He's got priorities after all. The AI calmly scans the area, analyzing a street banner, and replies, "You are in Seoul, South Korea. The year is 2024. The protagonist's mouth drops open. "Wait, if you're from the future or whatever, does that mean I'm a time traveler? Like I was sent back in time?" The AI hums thoughtfully, or as thoughtfully as an AI can hum. Accessing memory logs. Attempt unsuccessful. Operational data unavailable. Memory initialization incomplete. The protagonist looks around, oblivious to how bizarre he must look, standing there, talking to thin air. As he tries to process this, the traffic light that had been sparking earlier suddenly fizzles and goes dark, leaving him wondering if he's caused even more chaos than he first realized. Our protagonist realizes his internal computer buddy has also lost its memory. Guess he's not the only one having a rough day. Meanwhile, a driver frowns at the faulty traffic light, recognizing the problem, but it's too late. He slams the brakes, screeching forward. The truck swerves, and our protagonist's AI suddenly screams a warning. A traffic accident is imminent. The protagonist snaps to attention, alarmed, just as the truck barrels towards him. He barely manages to dodge out of the way, feeling the wind from the truck as it screeches to a halt. Just as he catches his breath, another loud warning blares in his head. Dangerous object approaching. He turns in time to see a metal rod flying straight at him. He dives, narrowly avoiding it, only for the rod to strike someone behind him. Gasps and screams erupt from the crowd as they realize the terrible truth. The rod has impaled an unfortunate bystander right through the stomach. People rush around, shouting for someone to call the police. One person leans down, desperately encouraging the man to stay conscious. But it's already clear that help may not arrive in time. The protagonist's vision starts to blur, and he groans, noticing strange red and blue lights flashing in his eyes. What? What's with the light show? The AI, as calm as ever, explains, that's an image projected by your visual assistance device. Think of it like our lens, it helps you dodge objects. The protagonist blinks, surprised but impressed. Okay, cool feature. But what about him? He gestures to the poor man on the ground. Isn't there some way to save him? The AI suggests an unexpected solution. You should perform emergency field surgery on the spot. He nearly chokes. Emergency surgery? Me? I can barely sew a button back on my shirt, let alone. But the AI, unfazed, says, you can do it. Still processing this, the protagonist takes a steadying breath. All right, fine, but, how exactly? The AI guides him. First, check the patient's condition. The protagonist nods, crouching beside the bleeding man, surrounded by a crowd of worried onlookers. The metal rod is still embedded, and he wonders how he's supposed to start when he's got zero clue what he's doing. But with lives on the line and no time to waste, he decides to trust the strange AI in his head and get to work. It's a miracle our protagonist even managed to get close to the casualty lying smack dab in the middle of the street. He examines the wound, wincing. This is a deep one, he mutters. This is like major surgery territory. He looks around, unsure. Are we actually doing this? The AI is calm, collected. Yes, you'll need a needle, thread, small knife, and antiseptic. Those should suffice. The protagonist mumbles these items aloud, and someone in the crowd hears him. Hey, you know emergency first aid? The man asks, looking hopeful. What do you need? I can help. He glances around, debating whether he trusts the AI enough for this, but he decides to go for it. Okay, we need a needle, thread, a knife, an antiseptic. The crowd scrambles, and somehow, miraculously, these items appear. One person even hands over a pristine white blanket where they lay out the tools. People eye him suspiciously. Are you a doctor? Someone asks. The protagonist just stares back, pretending to be calm, though he's on the verge of panic himself. He looks down at the supplies, realizing just how unprepared he feels. But hey, no backing out now. He clears his throat, trying to sound confident. The AI chimes in. Now, we'll proceed if you grant me temporary control of your hands. Our protagonist raises a brow. Temporary control? He echoes, a little slower than the situation really allows. He's about to ask for more details when the poor victim suddenly coughs up blood, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Realizing there's no time to waste, he takes a deep breath. All right, fine. Temporary control. Granted. Instantly, his hands start moving on their own, deft and precise. He watches, eyes wide, as they expertly handle the tools. For a second, he's awestruck. I've never been this impressed with my own fingers, he thinks as his hands go to work, each movement guided perfectly by the AI. It's not exactly what he imagined he'd be doing in a time travel-induced identity crisis, but here he is, hands moving on autopilot, giving roadside surgery a very unexpected shot. The protagonist yanks out the pole, wincing as he watches the poor guy's face contort. But there's no time to dwell on it. He quickly bends the needle into a curve, his hands moving with surprising speed and precision as he threads it, ready to work. He feels a sudden rush of confidence. This might actually work. But just as he's on a roll, stitching like a pro, a warning blares in his head. Excess blood loss detected. Patient survival probability decreasing. The protagonist freezes, horrified. What? After all that effort? He tries calling out to the AI, but it's suddenly gone silent, and his hands have stopped mid-stitch. He's left standing there, wide-eyed, as blood splatters onto his face. Oh no, this can't be happening. It's like the AI has ghosted him right in the middle of a life-or-death emergency. Within moments, medics arrive and whisk the casualty off to the hospital, leaving the protagonist with blood on his face and the distinct feeling that he's been majorly let down. Hours later, in the hospital, doctors are hard at work in the operating room. After what seems like an eternity, a surgeon steps out with a sigh of relief, meeting another doctor in the hallway. So, how did it go? The colleague asks. The surgeon nods. Patient survived, thankfully. The other doctor raises a brow, surprised. Really? Was the injury not as bad as it looked? The surgeon shakes his head. Oh no, it was as severe as they come. Actually, if someone hadn't stopped the bleeding earlier, he'd never have made it here. He pauses, clearly still trying to process something. But there's something odd. When we opened him up, we found that someone had already stitched him up using. He leans in for effect. Regular thread. Like sewing thread. The colleague's eyes go wide. You mean, like the stuff from a sewing kit? Exactly, the surgeon says, nodding. And whoever did it didn't even go for the standard medical sutures. It was surprisingly effective, though, he adds, scratching his head. Just unconventional, to say the least. The two doctors exchange a look, torn between admiration and sheer disbelief. But the eeriest part was the stitches themselves. They were spaced and patterned with an unnatural uniformity, each stitch precise as if done by a sewing machine. The surgeon shivered. It's eerie, almost inhuman. The other doctor nodded, eyebrows raised. It's absurd, but you're saying someone stitched this guy up with that level of precision in the middle of the street. Just then, they hear someone clear their throat. Turning, they spot Detective Park Jae-jong, who greets them with a quick hello and asks how the patient's doing. The surgeon sighs, relieved. Perfect timing, Detective. We're pleased to report the patient's stable, thanks to, well, whatever happened out there. He pauses, then asks, is it true someone performed surgery on him? On the street? The detective nods, still clearly amazed himself. Yeah, and it was no ordinary street surgery. The guy was yelling scalpel, scalpel, like he was on a hospital drama, and then he pulled out a box cutter. Both doctors' jaws drop. One sputters. A B-box cutter? That's insane. You can't perform surgery like that. The detective sighs. That's what I thought. But according to every witness, that's exactly what he did. Cut as clean as if he were some kind of, I don't know, street samurai. One doctor shakes his head in disbelief, while the other mutters, what kind of madman pulls out a box cutter and sews someone up on the sidewalk? They exchange horrified looks, and one asks, and the needle? All right. The detective chuckles, incredulous. He borrowed a sewing needle from a bystander. Picture it. This guy, crouched on the street, muttering and stitching like he's tailoring a suit. The doctors stare in stunned silence, trying to process this. Finally, one of them asks, where is this street surgeon now? Detective Park shrugs. No idea. Apparently, he just finished up, wiped his hands, and walked off into the sunset before the ambulance even arrived. Didn't even wait for a thank you. They all stand there, utterly speechless, unable to wrap their heads around what had just happened. Meanwhile, a few blocks away, our protagonist stands at a sink in a public restroom, scrubbing his hands with an intense focus. I thought you bailed on me back there, he mutters to his inner AI, remembering the moment his hands froze mid-surgery. The AI responds, I was merely calculating the optimal surgical path. Our protagonist rolls his eyes. Nice timing, but maybe next time don't leave me looking like an idiot with a needle halfway through a guy's stomach. He dries his hands and then thinks aloud, hey, by the way, why do you have no memory? The AI replies coolly, my memory was reset. Our dude blinks. No name, either? Correct. My designation has not been set. He's taken aback, but then smirks. All right then, how about a name? What's your purpose, anyway? The AI pauses for a split second, as if pondering this, then responds, to assist you in combat and survival situations. The protagonist grins. Combat and survival, huh? How about Buddy? Or maybe Psychic Supreme? I'm open to suggestions. The AI explained in its usual deadpan tone that it was a combat support AI embedded in a human body. Our protagonist muttered the name back thoughtfully, then decided to get creative. All right, how about Jeon Ji-in? Has a bit of flair. After a brief pause, the AI responded, name has been set to Jeon Ji-in. If you require any future name changes, please notify me to reset immediately. Our dude grinned, not quite ready to let up. What about Blackfire Dragon? The AI instantly chirped, Jeon Ji-in is perfect. With the AI's quick responses back in sync, our guy focused on the next mystery. He glanced at the patch on his sleeve that read Earth Union. So, am I some kind of special forces agent? He asked. I mean, you're from 2082, but it's 2024. So, what are we doing here? The AI's tone remained neutral. Insufficient data to determine reason. But our dude wasn't giving up. Come on, you're an AI. Just, I don't know, hop online or something? Negative. Direct access to external systems risks hacking. Information input and output are restricted. Input? You mean, like through my senses? He waved his hands around, trying to figure it out. Yes. Visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, and tactile data are processed through your experience. If you consume something enjoyable, I will also register that sensation. Great, he smirked. I'll make sure you get a taste of the finest city hot dogs. So, you're like a buddy with benefits, huh? The AI continued in its robotic calm. If assistance is required for tasks such as aiming a weapon, I can support. However, direct actions like pulling the trigger still require your input. Our dude gave a determined nod, understanding he'd need to work with what he'd got. His first quest? To dig up some answers in the city. With renewed focus, he wandered through the streets, his eyes peeled for anything that could offer a clue. Finally, something caught his attention, a neon sign with bold letters glowing PC. He figured, if he was going to gather info, what better place than a PC bang? All right, Jeon Ji-in, he muttered, time to work those senses. And with that, he made his way inside, ready to tap into the city's endless sources of info, or at least find a way to charge his own database. The AI piped up. Did your memories suddenly return? Our dude shook his head. Nah, it's just common sense poking its way back into my empty brain. But there's a problem. To hit up this info-gathering place, we need cash. And I'm pretty sure my pockets just filed for bankruptcy. He yanked out his pockets, marveling at their utter emptiness like it was an art installation titled Despair. Perhaps you could perform for money, the AI suggested, its tone as deadpan as ever. Sing? Really? Can my vocal cords handle that without embarrassing us both? Ardud asked, raising an eyebrow. Of course. Singing is a necessary skill in combat. The AI replied, dead serious. Wait, what? How is belting out a tune going to help in a fight? Ardud was baffled, but, seeing no other options, he reluctantly agreed to give the AI temporary control. When the moment arrived, Ardud raised a spoon like it was a golden microphone. Clad in a black mask for some reason, he looked like the world's most suspicious karaoke enthusiast. Is this really how we're doing this? He muttered, looking ridiculous. The AI reassured him. It boosts morale in battle. Trust me. Ardud squinted at the nearby park where a band was rocking out to a massive crowd. Right, so I'm supposed to outshine those pros over there with my spoon skills? Precisely. If you're better, they'll pay attention, Jeon Ji-in encouraged. More like they'll pay to see me fail miserably, Ardud groaned, the thought of jeering crowds and viral videos making his stomach turn. No pressure or anything. Just don't overdo it, he reminded the AI. I'd prefer not to end up the next internet meme. But before he could reconsider, the AI kicked off the performance, tossing a box at his feet as a makeshift stage. Ardud took a deep breath, inching away to a quieter spot, hoping to avoid the full brunt of embarrassment while half-heartedly preparing for his big moment. As he awkwardly adjusted the spoon, he muttered under his breath, "This better be worth 10,000 won, or I'm calling it a day and going back to my empty pockets." With a shrug, he stepped forward, ready to belt out the most questionable tune of his life, hoping the crowd would be too distracted by the band to notice his impending disaster. Ardud took a deep breath, surrendering his body to his AI companion as his performance kicked off. As he began to sing, a few passersby turned their heads, curiosity piqued by the enchanting melody. Some were captivated, drawn closer by the familiar tune, while others joined in, their excitement palpable as they flocked toward the source of the beautiful music. With his blue eyes sparkling like stars, Ardud felt an unexpected surge of confidence as the aura of a performer enveloped him. Even the spoon in his hand seemed to shine in the sunlight. Am I striking the right pose? He wondered aloud. Engage the audience, the AI reminded him, urging him to connect with the growing crowd. Whispers began to ripple through the onlookers as they discussed the mysterious guy in the corner who was managing to sing without any microphone or instruments. As more people gravitated toward him, the band nearby looked on in confusion, watching their audience fragment. They were further baffled when the entire crowd abandoned them, captivated by the solo act. Ardud noticed some audience members moved to tears, mesmerized by the beauty of his voice. He continued to sing, surprisingly belting out lyrics that were mostly about food, but the crowd kept rolling in. To Ardud's shock, it was working. The tips began to flow in, and people were clamoring to know who he was and how he could seamlessly switch between octaves. It was all going fantastically well, except for one minor detail. The crowd was perplexed as to why he kept singing only the same middle part of the song. Ardud flinched at the thought of criticism. The AI had only gathered snippets of street performances, leaving them with an incomplete repertoire. Regardless, the cash kept pouring in, and they quickly secured the funds they needed for their next mission. Ardud whispered a congratulatory remark to the AI, praising its impressive work. "We did it! Now let's get out of here before they realize I only know half a song." He dashed away, heart racing, as cheers erupted behind him, with the crowd calling for him to come back and sing another tune. Unbeknownst to him, a girl with flowing blonde hair had been watching from a window in a nearby high-rise. She looked on in awe, a smile spreading across her face as she listened to his voice. Just then, someone called out to her from the back, reminding her that a customer at table 15 had ordered ramen. She glanced back, a wistful look in her eyes, clearly intrigued by the mysterious singer who had just stolen the show, and perhaps her heart. Reluctantly abandoning her window watch, the blonde girl sighed as she returned to her duty. "I'm coming," she called out, wishing she could have listened a little longer to that captivating singer. Meanwhile, Ardud happily stashed his earnings in the box, feeling triumphant as he called out to his AI companion. "If we head to the PC room, we should be able to find all sorts of information, especially about the Earth Alliance and our purpose," he exclaimed, his excitement palpable. But then he paused, brow furrowing. "What if we don't find anything useful?" The AI replied with a calm reassurance. "First, it's crucial to infiltrate the local area discreetly and blend in naturally. After that, we'll find a way to contact headquarters." Ardud stared at the PC room, pondering how exactly they could blend in. His eyes drifted to a sign on the door that read, "Now hiring part-time staff. Must bring ID and resume. Experience preferred." A light bulb went off in his head. This could be the perfect way to infiltrate discreetly. Plus, they even provided meals for staff. It was an ideal solution for both their information and food needs. "Let's apply right away," the AI encouraged, fueling Ardud's resolve. He took a deep breath and climbed the stairs, determined to make a good impression. "Oh, and I should ask if I can stay for a while if I get the job," he added, realizing he needed a place to sleep that night. The AI chimed in. "If we secure living space, all our needs, food, clothing, and shelter, will be taken care of." But then Ardud remembered his lack of clothing. The AI reassured him. "No need to worry. Your military uniform has a camouflage transformation option." It explained that it was made from special shape memory fibers that could change form. The modular clothes could be dismantled and rearranged into various outfits. Curious, Ardud decided to give it a try. As he focused on transforming his uniform, a bright flash erupted on the staircase. When the light faded, Ardud blinked in shock, staring at his new outfit. He looked like a female protagonist from an erotic superhero show, complete with a form-fitting bodysuit that accentuated every curve. The embarrassment flooded his cheeks as he glanced around, hoping no one had witnessed the transformation. "What the heck?" Ardud muttered, half laughing and half mortified. He glanced at the AI, who had gone suspiciously silent. "Why didn't you warn me it would look like this?" The AI finally responded, sounding somewhat sheepish. "I may have miscalculated the final appearance. It's effective for blending in, though." "Effective?" Ardud echoed incredulously. "I look ridiculous." But with no time to waste, he steeled himself. This was his chance to blend into the local scene, even if it meant looking like a bizarre superhero. Taking a deep breath, Ardud squared his shoulders and strode toward the PC room, determined to make the most of his absurd situation. As Ardud stood at the top of the stairs, a couple of guys approached, one of them berating the other. "Seriously, man, even if this PC room is small, it's not okay for anyone to wear something ridiculous." They looked up and froze, their expressions shifting from irritation to sheer horror at the sight of Ardud, proudly displaying his belly in the absurd outfit. Ardud blinked, equally blank, unsure how to respond to their shocked faces. The two men completed their climb, visibly trying to avoid eye contact as they passed him, whispering to each other. It was as if Ardud had turned into a walking nightmare, and they were just trying to escape the bizarre reality of it. "Guess it's for the best," Ardud thought, watching them scurry past, relieved they hadn't said anything more before disappearing through the door. The silence that followed was almost palpable, and Ardud turned to the AI. "Do you think they went pale because of my outfit?" "It's possible," the AI replied, though there was a hint of hesitation in its tone. "I could help you make a soft landing from this situation if you'd like." Ardud chuckled. "Even you're concerned about how I look, huh?" He quickly decided it was time for a wardrobe change. With a few quick commands to his internal machine, the outfit transformed once again. He emerged in a more typical hoodie, a face cap, and comfortable pants and sneakers. The change was immediate. He felt a wave of relief wash over him. Even the AI seemed to breathe easier. "Much better," Ardud said with a grin. "This is how a special agent should dress." Feeling more confident, he stepped into the PC room. The atmosphere was lively. The hum of keyboards and the occasional cheers from players filled the air. As he looked around, the AI sprang into action, analyzing everything in sight. 96% of users are currently engaged in gaming, it reported, scanning the surroundings. Payment methods and internal facilities have been confirmed. Protagonist's inner machine confirmed the status of the kitchen supplies with a quick scan, even identifying a small area that could serve as a temporary living space. Analysis suggested it was the best option for a short stay, and Protagonist agreed. Meanwhile, the usual patrons continued to use the PC room, fully absorbed in their own screens and games. Later, while chatting with the man at the front desk, Protagonist mentioned wanting to apply for a part-time job. The owner raised an eyebrow, surprised, and asked if he had a resume or any job experience. Protagonist, naturally, had neither, but with his usual confidence, he told the owner he could get everything sorted by the next day. The owner yawned, reluctantly agreeing, noting that Protagonist was bold and that he could use an extra set of hands. Although the owner seemed a bit doubtful, he looked Protagonist over, trying to gauge if he could handle the tasks. With his calm expression, Protagonist looked more like someone who would be a PC customer rather than someone who could cook for one. "Can you even handle a frying pan?" the owner asked half-jokingly. Protagonist nodded, and his inner machine quickly informed him it had tactical cooking skills from its experience managing soldiers' conditions in the field. Confidently, Protagonist replied that he could handle it. Still doubtful, the owner decided to put him to the test. "All right then, make some fried rice and prove it," he challenged. Protagonist agreed and headed toward the kitchen. Meanwhile, a newlywed couple came in, asking if the PC room had a newlywed section, which the owner had to admit, with a sigh, it did not. As Protagonist entered the kitchen, he paused to survey his surroundings. The inner machine quickly scanned the area, identifying all the ingredients for fried rice on display. Protagonist asked his inner AI, "Can you really make fried rice? And make it taste good?" The AI responded promptly, initiating tactical field cooking mode, requesting temporary control of your hands. With a slight grin, Protagonist allowed the AI to take over, curious to see just how well his tactical cooking mode would perform in the heat of a civilian kitchen. The owner blinked in disbelief as the protagonist, who was now fully immersed in the cooking process. The sounds of chopping and sizzling filled the kitchen, and the rhythm of the cooking seemed almost choreographed. It was as if the protagonist had transformed into a culinary maestro, skillfully maneuvering through each step with precision. "Where did you learn to cook like that?" the owner muttered to himself, astonished. He had anticipated a half-hearted attempt at preparing instant noodles, not this show of expertise. The inner machine had taken over, guiding the protagonist's hands with tactical cooking skills honed in the field. "Just a little experience here and there," the protagonist replied, his voice laced with confidence. He continued to chop vegetables and marinated meat, his movements fluid and efficient. He added oil to the hot pan and quickly tossed in the ingredients, the sound of sizzling resonating through the kitchen. The owner couldn't help but be captivated by the spectacle. He leaned closer, watching as the protagonist mixed everything with a flair that belied his earlier appearance. The aroma of garlic and spices began to fill the air, enticing and mouth-watering. All right, that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for sticking around till the end. You're the real MVP. If you're itching for more of this series, drop a comment and let me know. And hey, if you want front row seats to the next part, go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, and get ready for your notification dance when the next video drops. Catch you next time.